Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
All right. Good evening, Dan. How are you doing?
I am good. Back from the cruise, ready to talk some sports here.
Yes, and I know I've been doing my daily recaps for Wimbledon with both the men's and the women's side bracket. And let's start off with the women's. I think Krejicova winning against Paolini. Paolini, her second straight loss. It almost seems like she's like the Casper Ruud of the men's, losing. But I think great credit to her. But Krejcikova, mentored by Novotná, Jana Novotná from Czechoslovakia, and then she won. She's won 7 doubles Grand Slams. I didn't even realize that. So good for her. So, but we turn the page because this is the hot ticket in town tomorrow with rematch of the last year's Wimbledon final between Carlos Alcaraz and the most who has ever won Grand Slams, Novak Djokovic, who about 5-6 weeks ago we didn't even think he was going to play. So let's get down to your quick analysis on the semifinal and then the look ahead, and then let's get to who our predictions will be.
Yeah. So you mentioned in your introduction there what a hot ticket this is, and it's funny you said that because I heard today that this event, tomorrow's Wimbledon final with Alcaraz and Djokovic, is the single highest ticketed sports event of all time for just to get a ticket into the event. So I'm not saying that, maybe the Super Bowl, the peak event, the peak price for a box ticket there might have been more, but just to get into Wimbledon tomorrow, you're looking at dropping a little over $10,000, they said, for any basic ticket to get in there. So this gives you an idea how what the demand is like for this, and what the anticipation is like for this matchup tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, just as looking at I was away, so I didn't get to watch the last few weeks too much. I was able to put it on and saw a little bit here and there of the tennis, try to watch some highlights. But it looks like obviously with Djokovic, we just, after he had his surgery a little over a month ago, we kind of just thought it was a foregone conclusion that next time we'd see him would maybe be at the Olympics back at Roland Garros. We just kind of, like everyone, they just thought he would be taking 6 weeks to kind of rehab things and hopefully get in order for the Olympics, possibly. But we were all amazed that he showed up and that he played, and now here he is again. He just surprises us once again. All the way in the finals. We've been talking, like you said, his draw has not been the toughest. He got a walkover in the semifinals. The quarterfinals over de Minaur.
Mm-hmm.
And his first 4 rounds, I don't think he played anyone inside probably the top 20. But hey, you still got to win. You play who's in front of you, and that's what he's done. And he's looked, I think, really sharp out there. I did get it. I watched almost the entire semifinal against Musetti. And I thought Musetti was a very formidable opponent. He's a 22, 23 seed. I think he looks like he could be a top 10 player. Yeah. I think he's a tick. I think he won a tournament recently. He's only won 2 tour events in his young career. He's young though, but I think he looks like he's got everything that a top 10 or top 15 player needs. And yeah, Djokovic had to work. It was kind of an easy first set, got an easy early break. Held on to win the first set, but then after that, things got a little tight. I thought great rallies back and forth. Musetti just runs everything down, and then I think Djokovic realized, what he had to do to win was just kind of force things a little more, come into net. He started serving and volleying a little bit, shortening the rallies coming into net, and that's where he really started dominating at the net against Musetti, who's just more of a strict baseliner like most players these days. So yeah, Djokovic looks like he's got it all going. We weren't sure, how he would be with that knee, whether if he takes a fall or, hyperextends it a little, how he would bounce back. He hasn't really been tested from that respect. We haven't really seen him have any, go down, take any falls, twist the knee at all. So we don't know how he would respond if that were to happen. But every indication looks like he's, near 100%. And then now on to Alcaraz. Alcaraz is, had a relatively easy time advancing. He's had tough opponents along the way. He had a 5-setter in the third round, I think, against Tiafoe. And then he had a test in the. He's had a couple of good opponents in Tommy Paul in the quarterfinals, and then again, obviously against Medvedev in the semis. So he's had some real tough opponents. Tiafoe, Paul, and Medvedev. 3 out of 6 matches. That's pretty tough. But he dropped the first set, I believe, to Paul, then came back and won 3 straight sets relatively easily. Made quick work of him after that. And then Medvedev got the first set, and then Alcaraz kind of just figured things out, and then just got the next 3 sets. And I think against Tiafoe, that was his biggest test, a 5-setter, and he obviously prevailed in the 5th set there. And he's looking as strong as he did last year once again. And he obviously coming off a win in the French, and here he is going for his fourth Grand Slam, and he's I forget if he's 21 or just about to turn 21. So it'd be his 4th Grand Slam, more than I heard today, more than Stan Wawrinka, more than Andy Murray. And these guys had long careers into their mid and late 30s, and here Alcaraz is 21, and already potentially getting his 4th, with a victory tomorrow. So that's kind of setting the stage. You can give your kind of analysis of the last couple of weeks, how both players have looked, and then we can talk about what we're going to see in the final tomorrow.
Yeah, let me start with Alcaraz. When we started the French Open just a few weeks ago, we were all talking about was the widest open French Open draw because we had Sinner was coming from injury, Alcaraz was coming from injury, Djokovic was actually hurt during the French Open, and then we thought was wide open, and then Alcaraz goes and wins it against Zverev. But Alcaraz has been playing as good as he can. The one thing he did have a blimp before coming to Wimbledon was his loss to Tommy Paul in the. No, did he lose to Tommy Paul? No, in the Queens Club tournament. I'm trying.
Oh yeah, forget.
Yeah. So I know he lost to Draper from Britain.
That's right.
Yes, and then Tommy Paul won that event.
Won that tune-up.
Again, we thought, here we go again. We thought, even though Carlos was the favorite, we thought this could be Sinner's year to win the Wimbledon. But to your point about Carlos playing the toughest, he's played some tough opponents, and he's not breezed through. He still had to get 5 sets against Tiafoe, 4 against Humbert. Then you got 4 against Medvedev after Medvedev won the first set. But I think this version of Djokovic who's coming off an injury, I don't really care about. Yes, he has had an easy draw, but at the same time, you just have to play who the other person at the net. These guys are professionals. These guys are world number 25 ranked. And Rune is someone who's ranked number 15 in the world, and he's always being thought about as one of the top players or young players, the young brigade. End of the day, this, I believe, is Djokovic's 37th Grand Slam at 37 years old. Just sit back and think about it. This could be going for his 25th Grand Slam. To me, I think Djokovic has looked really well. He's still not the Djokovic of last couple of years. I was just even watching the highlights of I know you watched it live, the Musetti match, but you saw the way he was not like 100%. You felt like he was still feeling out his knee. Carlos is going at 100 miles an hour right now. He is playing well. He's definitely he's always had the little blimps along the way, the hurdles along the way, losing one set or the other, but he's still playing at his best. I think there's the injury that he suffered prior to the French Open right now seems a thing of the past. But let's get down to what you think, based on what you've heard from the Roddick, or, I've been reading some articles here and there. I've not had a chance to listen to the Roddick one. I'll probably will tonight, but what did you think about where this is going? And I know you predicted Djokovic to lose in the earlier rounds. I predicted Djokovic to lose. I always picked Alcaraz to win it, so I have to stay that way. So, I'm giving you an early indication of where I'm leaning right now. But what do you think?
Yeah. God, this is a tough one. My heart says, obviously I'm kind of rooting for Djokovic. As you know, I'm a, big Djokovic fan. He's my probably favorite player of the big three. Him and Rafa. I love watching both of them. But gosh, it's hard to pick against Alcaraz right now. Alcaraz obviously he's the young gun. He's got all the tools that Djokovic has and more. He's got he's got just more um, um, more energy out there right now, with especially that if that knee's an issue with Djokovic, Alcaraz can just run everything down. Maybe a little more. I wouldn't say he's more fit. Djokovic is as fit as anyone out there, but still, early on this year, Djokovic had some moments where he was breathing. His breathing was a little labored, so you're kind of questioning his fitness a little bit early this season. And some of Djokovic's earlier tournaments, he just didn't look like his fitness was there like it had been in the past. But yeah, I mean, this is a tough one to call. If I have to, I think it's going to go 5 sets again. And probably if I were to put money on this, I'd probably have to go with Carlos against Joker. But I think it's going to go 5 sets. When I was listening to that Roddick podcast earlier, the way they kind of broke it down, keys to the match for both players, with Alcaraz, they said his real key is really his first serve percentage, because he needs to get up there in the mid 60s first serve percentage. If he's not, I think you could see Djokovic attacking that second serve, getting some breaks. So that's really a key for Alcaraz. And then the way I see the key for Djokovic is, in order to beat Alcaraz, I mean, Djokovic, we've always said, is a backboard. You can go toe to toe, head to head with anyone as far as rallies. But Alcaraz is one guy who can hang in a rally and chase stuff down as well as anyone, as we've seen. Some of his amazing shots on the run and stuff he does when you think the point is over is just incredible. So I think Djokovic is going to have to look to do things to shorten points. So he's going to have to, number one, really keep incredible depth on all his ground strokes. Anything that's short, Alcaraz can either jump on, or his biggest weapon is that drop shot. So you give him a short ball, you got to worry about then Alcaraz dropping you, and then having Djokovic with that bad knee having to run, chase balls down, and then he's in a bad position, kind of retrieving a drop shot, and Alcaraz can then jump on it or hit a lob or something. So I think the depth of Djokovic's shot is really keeping Alcaraz way back on that baseline is going to be key. And then really going after his backhand as much as possible too. Carlos, he's obviously great on both sides. He's got that amazing slice now he's developed with that backhand that he's added to his game, which is just really a nice tool that he's added. But still, if anything, go backhand to backhand a little more. That's going to be the key. As Carlos he can rip that forehand as well as anyone ever has. So really going after the backhand, trying to keep Alcaraz deep, so those drop shots, keep those to a minimum. And then for Alcaraz, the key is, I think, really his serve, the first serves. So that's kind of how I see it going, and I think it's going to be Alcaraz in either in 4 or 5. But man, it's going to be a fun match to watch. I can't wait.
Yeah, going back to what you were talking about, that was good analysis by you. Just watching Alcaraz for the last few matches, just even watching even the matches I missed, I've managed to watch a lot of the highlights. One thing that really concerns me is the first serve percentage. And I think even against Medvedev yesterday, he dropped below 50%. Not a good thing, especially when you're playing a player of the caliber of Djokovic. That would concern me for Alcaraz. The second thing is that, like you said, I mean, he's got some weaknesses that Djokovic can definitely exploit. But he's kind of working on his weaknesses right now, which kind of makes him a scary player on the backhand. Right? I mean, he's developed his slice too, like you said. But this is going to be, like you said, this is going to be a fun game in terms of, and again, it depends. Like even when you look at last year's Wimbledon, Djokovic won the first set at 6-1. Alcaraz had to come back and win it at 7-6. He actually won it as 8-6. Actually, he won the tiebreaker 8-6 in the second set. And then the third and fourth set, they split it, and Alcaraz won the fourth set when he broke with that beautiful lob he hit over Djokovic. So I definitely think that this will be a crazy match. I'm still picking Alcaraz. I still think it goes to 5 sets, maybe 4, depending on where he tests Djokovic's knee. How is he doing? I mean, that's something that I thought a lot of the players, as Djokovic would advance at Wimbledon, I thought a lot of I would say, like top players would test his knee by moving him around, going for the drop shot. If there's one thing that Alcaraz has, it's that lethal drop shot that he is going to make Djokovic come in. But I mean, from what I saw from Djokovic, he's been moving well. I don't see any um, any indications of that injury really holding him back. But I feel just having watched Djokovic for many years, even the match against Musetti, I still felt he was still not confident with his knee yet. So he was still not, finishing his strokes much faster or like he normally does. So let's see. I mean, I still think it's
Yeah,
Alcaraz.
I mean, I thought he looked about. I mean, I've watched a lot of Djokovic. I thought he looked pretty good in that match. Actually, I thought Musetti was tough. I thought Djokovic looked about 85% of what I've seen him at his best. I was pretty impressed from just the way he was striking the ball back and forth. And he had a few shots that I think he was a little loose on. I think he realized when he had. Yeah, when he had the lead comfortably, I think he had a few loose games he played, but overall, I thought he looked pretty good. I think it's going to be, like I said, a pretty amazing match tomorrow. We're going to be in a treat for.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we're in a good. I think is it 25 or 4, and if it's 25 for Djokovic, this would be his first major this year, and he would tie
Yeah,
Roger Federer for the 8th. I think this is his 10th Wimbledon, and I think you
yeah,
and I talked about the trivia question. Who did he lose to the last 2 times? One was Alcaraz, and the other one was, did you say Murray?
Andy Murray. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that now, and
Yeah,
I that match right now after you told me that. Um, but this is going to be, and in fact, Alcaraz right now in majors is 3-0.
yeah, that's
He's
right.
not lost a major,
Yeah,
so I think it's going to come down. So one of the streaks is going to either get broken, Alcaraz not winning one, and the other one would be tying Federer for 8 for
yeah,
Djokovic. So it's not broken yet. He'll tie Federer, but I
yeah,
think that puts him again in a, a lot of people have been talking about Federer being the greatest grass court player.
yeah,
I think this will put him right up on par with that. So
yeah.
that's for
Yeah, there's a couple other funny number facts that were mentioned on the erotic podcast. They're just incredible things when you think about them. Like you said, this is I think Djokovic's, what do you say, 37th major final he'll be playing in. So if you just stack that up and looked at how many years, if you did 9 straight years, that would be making the final every single year for 9 straight years in a major. So that's kind of, just think about that. That's incredible. The second thing they mentioned was this is his 20. He'd be going for his 25th final. So more major finals than Alcaraz is years old. Only 21. That's kind of ridiculous. And the craziest thing is the number they said. Alcaraz is closer in age to Djokovic's kids now than he is to Djokovic. So the bigger
wow.
gap, 15 years between him and Djokovic, as opposed to Djokovic's son and Alcaraz. So just some funny number facts. I have one trivia question unrelated to Djokovic and Alcaraz, but I just looked up a quick Wimbledon trivia search because we always have to dedicate a new trivia question to
Cool.
our good friend Pete. So this is the question here: who is the youngest male Wimbledon men's singles champion of all time?
I was going to say Boris Becker when he beat Kevin Curran in Wimbledon. He was 17 years. So that would be my answer.
Did you cheat? Were you looking at your? Did you do a quick search? No,
No,
AI. No, that was very
no,
good. You got everything.
no.
You got that. You got the
I was
Becker
a
and
big
the age. You
Becker.
got right too. Yeah,
I was the biggest Becker fan, so
yeah,
I know that he played Kevin Curran
yep,
and he won the Wimbledon. I still remember the iconic image of Becker
yeah,
stretching across the net and then hitting the ball. So I
yeah,
remember that very well. South African Kevin Curran. So
yeah.
I remember that pretty
Yeah,
well.
17
Because
years.
I was a Becker. I was a big Becker fan. So
Yeah,
there you go.
yeah, yeah. No,
I'll give you another stat. So the head-to-head right now for Djokovic and Alcaraz is
let's see.
they
Djokovic
played them
lost.
5 times.
Oh,
They
they played
played
5 times. Well, I remember the last three. I know Djokovic is 2-1. They are actually the semifinal last year at the French. He beat him. Lost in Wimbledon. That's 1-1. Cincinnati he won. That's 2-1. I would say Djokovic is 3-2 if I had to give you a guess.
You're right. You're
Uh,
right. There you go. So I guess there was no chat GPT there for you too.
yeah, I'm just
So yeah, I'm trusting you there. I think yes. So he was 2-1 when he won the Wimbledon, and then Djokovic won the wild Cincinnati, but we
Yeah.
both of us did the podcast after that. It was a three-setter, went back and forth, and then obviously he beat him in the ATP Nitto finals. He actually beat him 6-3, 6-2, much easier. So it was 3-2 right now. You're
Oh,
right.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. So we both are picking Alcaraz. Won't be surprised if Djokovic wins, and that'll be just incredible. And then that goes into momentum going into the U.S. Open, even though that's like pretty far out. But I think that we were treated to a very good Wimbledon. The one thing that I did want to call out in the Wimbledon, just doing the daily recaps, is the number of injuries and number of, I would say, walkovers that some of these players had. Not sure it was the surface or it was personal. So I'm just looking at some of the names here. From the women's side, we had Madison Keys. Then for the men's side, you had Dimitrov. You had Diminar, who got hurt on a match point and he had to withdraw from the match against Djokovic. Then you had Zverev. I think something happened to him as well against Tommy Paul.
We had
Who was,
Sabalenka before the tournament too. Sabalenka.
yeah, and then you had Sinner, who I think didn't feel good because I think if you look at it, and we don't know why, I think Roddick even touched upon it, whether it's the one way or the other, which is because his girlfriend was playing the day before, and she withdrew in the match, if I'm not mistaken, against Rybakina, and then Sinner the next day wasn't feeling 100%, and I still made a reference to that. I think the sickness has something to do with it because he did withdraw from the next tournament, which means you'll only see Sinner again at the Paris Olympics. So there you go. So this was a fun thing. I know we'll be. I think the British Open is coming, so I don't know where we'll have the time. I do think that is it next week?
Well, like,
Okay, so
yeah,
I
we'll have
think
to
I
try.
may be able to do a podcast on Tuesday before I leave. So I
Okay.
think that'll be fun.
All right.
All right. All right, Dan, thanks again for listening. And I do want to give a shout out to our good friend, because we did give a shout out to Pete Suckmeyer. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Andy Woolner for creating the, I would say, end music for the Primo and Dan. So let's give a shout out to Mr. Andy, and I'm going to add it to this podcast today.
Thank you, Mr. A-Dub.
All right. All right. Thanks, Dan. And welcome back.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hold on. We're just going to stop the recording.
Thanks for listening. Primo and Dan will be back soon.